market and your insurance coverage is current, nothing is going to change.
Calling him a liar there. Joining me now, one Republican congressman who has met with constituents just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and has 2 more events scheduled this week. Congressman Kevin Cramer of North Dakota via Skype. We got our technical problems worked out. Thank you for being with us, sir. Your website says that since coming to Congress, you've held more town halls than any other member, and now you're holding these coffee with Cramer events this week at local shops, arguably smaller than what we just saw. But I wonder what kind of reaction you're getting, particularly when it comes to health care, as you talk to your constituents.
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for your patience with our technological difficulties. I've been holding town halls ever since I got to Congress, so my town halls tend to not to be so big because people have pretty regular access, and I think that's helped me have a more intimate relationship, I think, with my constituents. But that's not to say they don't come with some passion. There was plenty of passion yesterday. Based on what I saw of Rod's group, similar breakdown in terms of people that support the American Health Care Act, those that like Obamacare. But their concerns are what we've always heard. They want to make sure pre-existing conditions are covered. They want to make sure that, that the lifetime limits aren't put back on. But there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of hype. And it just presents me the opportunity to straighten some things out and then to learn some things from my constituents. And it's a very rich experience for me.
Yeah, let me ask you about some of the things that are out there, because I think one of the biggest ones is this $8 billion that got a lot of people, a lot of Republicans on board to deal with pre-existing conditions. I have yet, however, to see an independent analysis that suggests it's going to come anywhere close to being able to deal with pre-existing conditions. What do you say to your constituents?
Well, first of all, that $8 billion is the most recent $8 billion. There's another $130 billion that's part of, state grants that are part of indivisible risk pool. It gives tremendous flexibility to states. But I think the most important thing to point out,
the analysis I've seen is that even that combination is not enough to cover pre-existing conditions, which obviously has sparked a lot of emotional response by constituents all across the country.
Sure. Well, I believe that there are more layers of protection for pre-existing conditions in our plan than there are in Obamacare. I have a 30-year-old niece and her husband, who's a mechanic, 2 young children that pay $1,000 a month to cover, for their health insurance, to cover his pre-existing condition of diabetes, but their $10,000 deductible makes it impossible for him to even buy insulin or go to the doctor. So that's a pre-existing condition that's theoretically covered in terms of having health insurance, but they can't afford the care. So,
and I'm not trying to minimize that in any way, Congressman, because I think everybody's individual story has worth, but it is an individual story in a country with millions of them. And there was a new op-ed by former North Dakota State Rep Ben Hansen. He quotes a study that says that the House bill will eliminate funding covering 300,000 North Dakotans with pre-existing conditions, including those who have been diagnosed with cancer, diabetes, asthma, heart disease, even women who are pregnant. Can you assure your constituents that he's wrong about that and that study is wrong about that?
Absolutely. First of all, North Dakota is made up of 700,000 total people. This bill that we're dealing with deals with only people on the individual market, which has been decimated by Obamacare. So in North Dakota, there are only between 7 and 8% of the public in North Dakota that actually gets their insurance through the individual market. When you take the pre-existing conditions, that's roughly 24% of that 7%. That gets it down to 2% of the entire population of North Dakota that might actually have a pre-existing condition that would be eligible for our program, for our safety net. And when you take the safety net that we're providing, which is tax credits, refundable tax credits, this is something I had to point out several times yesterday, and in addition to a thriving market, in addition to, of course, the $138 billion of flexibility dollars for states to fashion programs, I think we have many more options for people with pre-existing conditions than Obamacare that provides one or in some cases no options that people can afford to have.
It will be interesting to see how the Senate version looks compared to what you and I are talking about now. But before I let you go, if I can, Congressman, because it is the big story today, I'd like to ask you about President Trump considering sending thousands more troops to Afghanistan to help fight Taliban and ISIS. Is that something you would support?
Well, I'd want to see more information, of course, Chris. I think that, anytime you're sending troops into battle on the ground, we want to see a lot more information before we know for sure. But I will tell you that the neglect in Afghanistan by this country over the last 8 years and in other parts of the Mideast, including in the Middle East, including, of course, the war against ISIS, clearly has created a void that has been overtaken by terrorists, and we need to do something. We need to lead. But before we send troops on the ground, obviously, I need to get more information. I'm sure we'll get some more.
Congressman Kevin Cramer of North Dakota, thank you, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity. Always a pleasure.
Coming up.